The views, statements, and opinions expressed on the Coming Home podcast do not represent Fairleigh Dickinson University, its views, or affiliates. The content of these episodes are solely focused on the stories, memories, and journeys of FDU alumni. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of FDU Coming Home. I'm Michael Canetti.
And I'm Mike Ramos.
And with us is somebody that Ramos and I have known for a very long time in different ways, right? So we have with us another guy that I kind of idolized when I was a freshman, Frank Manzo. Hey, Frank, how are you?
How's it going, guys? I mean, that was a wonderful intro.
Hey, listen,
It was. He idolized. Wow.
well, seriously. So listen to this funny story. So my first semester freshman year, I was taking like an intro to film class. Frank was a senior in psychology, and he happened to be in my class. And we had to like write a short, like 3-page script as like our final project, and then film it. And Frank's script got picked, and I'm like, how is this psychology guy's movie getting picked over me, the film major? And now I have to film this thing, and I have to edit this thing for this guy. And that's how we became friends, was because of this project in my first semester freshman year. And then, Ramos, fast forward to, it was either my 21st birthday or my FDU college graduation. Frank and I had stayed in touch because I would always download his mixtapes from when he was DJing and whatnot. And I said, hey, I know you live in Staten Island. Do you want to come out to Long Island and DJ my graduation party? And he did. And he brought all of his gear, set it up on my deck, and DJ'd my graduation party.
That's so good. That's so good.
I did not remember that you were in that film class, but
I was.
I have that somewhere.
Do you really?
Swear to God. Yeah, absolutely. I was like in this cabinet. The Sound of Thoughts. And
Yes.
the whole premise of that thing was that like this guy like flatlines. Like he was out like partying, doing drugs, and like he flatlines and he wakes up, he's like brought back to life. And now he can hear everybody's thoughts. And like that's what goes on in like this thing. So like it kind of drives him a little mad, but in the end he ends up like saving this girl's life from jumping in front of a train. Now we filmed that at one of the train stations.
Yeah,
Right.
I think so. Yeah, we did. Yeah.
You know, and so I mean, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, but while you weren't our roommate, you might as well have been, right? Like me, Steve,
Yeah.
the rest of them. Like he spent so much time in our dorm room. I don't have to say what we were doing, but we were doing it, and we had such a good time doing it.
We were thankful there was no social media or smartphones back then.
I mean, to some degree, absolutely.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. No, I mean, we spent a ton of time in our. I mean, we were basically. When did you graduate? 99, 2000,
Actually,
2001. So you were 2 years behind.
graduated in 2001.
But only because it changed me.
But technically, I actually ended up graduating in 2002 because I was in a 5-year program.
So
Got it.
that was
So I
kind of
started in 97, and then that one should have been when I graduated, and then it was 2002.
Got it.
So that was the first thing I wanted to dive into. So you were in the psychology program. That was the 5-year program, which you get your bachelor's. And was it an MA or what was it? MS? I forget what it was at the end of it.
Yeah, you end up with a bachelor's, master's, so a BA, MA, and my track was clinical counseling psychology. So, you know, once I knew that that's what I want to do, it was kind of a no-brainer because you're like doing an extra year at FDU, but you're getting the master's degree. So you're really coming out a year ahead, even though you're staying a year in school.
Because I think even in your senior year, you'd already started taking some graduate level classes before you even led into the grad program. I think you had like a couple of overlapping things. I think
even by my junior year, actually, I think even by my third year, I was then taking mostly the grad level psych classes. Yeah, so it was a weird thing to have to do. Because you didn't take a lot of those undergrad classes. So you ended up like kind of jumping some of that stuff. But if you could handle it and you were into it and that was what you wanted, like it was a lot. It was a lot of work. But
So
but it was absolutely worth it.
That's
yeah.
cool.
So take us back to the beginning. How did you find Fairleigh Dickinson?
Oh, yeah.
So I applied. I've listened to the other episodes, so there's some definitely themes which are interesting. So I applied to 2 schools. That was it, and both of them had radiology as a major. So that's what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to be like a radiologist, but I wanted to go to college. I didn't want to just do like the X-ray tech. So FDU and University of Hartford were the only 2 like kind of nearby schools that had radiology as a major. I didn't even visit University of Hartford. I got in, but I didn't even. It was like I got into FDU, and I think they, the finances kind of worked out. I remember visiting the campus and being like, I guess this is where I'm going to go. And me and another friend of mine that I went to high school with both went there. And
Name drop. Who was it?
Christina Didano, but I think she left after our freshman year.
Okay.
Although in that, like the first night, like the pub night that we have, like freshman year pub night. So it's like, the end of August or beginning of September of 1997. We're at pub night and she meets this guy and they are still married to this day.
Oh, that's
Really?
awesome.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Picked up to you because of that. And the funny thing about that is that I realized real quick that wasn't going to work out for me. Like radiology was not my thing. I failed. Like literally first semester, failed pre-calc. And I took one psychology class and it was like the Wednesday night classes. And I remember being in that class and being like, I started FDU when I was 17. So it was like 17, 18 years old that semester. And being in that class and just like answering all the questions and like being really involved, and all the other students, it was the night class. So like that was almost all like adults, which
Yeah.
I'm sure were all of 4 years older than I was, but they were adults, right? Like I was not an adult. But I remember like I literally almost left. Like my first semester, I had fully planned on not coming back. Like I packed up my stuff like right before Christmas break. I was like, I'm not coming back. I almost left.
Was that on Florham? Was that on Florham campus?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
Always on Florham campus. I thought radiology would have been on
yeah,
the
I did
other
all
side.
my years at Florham with the exception of one semester at Roxton. So I know where
We'll
I know
get into that then.
that's a thing. Coming back, like I had a conversation with like my parents and like some of my friends. I was like, all right, let's just like go the rest of the year. Like we've kind of paid for this already, right? Like, and second semester, it was like this weird thing, and a bunch of people on your podcast have talked about like ways that FDU has like supported situations that aren't like conventional. And if you failed a class, but you changed your major, they dropped that grade from your transcript, which I don't understand why or how or whatever, but I took advantage of it.
Yeah.
Because I had to retake the pre-calc. Dropped plant bio, and I was like, that's the end of that. And I retook pre-calc and got like a B- or something, like just enough to get something.
Yeah, so basically what happens is when you redo the pre-calc, it overwrites the old one and it kind of replaces that previous grade. Kind of like almost like SATs in the way that works.
Yeah. That was fine, but the dropping the failed grade was odd. But they were like, all right, I guess I'm a psych major. So I changed to psych. And then I don't know when I got into the 5-year program because I had to. It was an application. You had to do a thing.
And usually you come into the school in that program, so you had to come in kind of like back channels if you already came in under a different program. Yeah. Yeah,
I had to like reapply. Like I had friends that were in that program, and I had to then apply for it like much later. And just as I was recalling this, like it's weird as I literally finished my first semester with like a 1.87 GPA. And then at whatever point I'm like on the dean's list. Like it was a weird trajectory that I figured out, but like I figured out that those other classes and that major wasn't for me.
I can't wait. As this podcast continues, right? Every single guest comes on and says, I almost lost it in the freshman year, but I came back strong and I win.
Super cut of just everybody saying the exact same thing.
Yes, it was so good.
But it's that, and I know this isn't just an FDU thing; it's a college thing.
Yeah,
like
it sure
people,
is.
Like your freshman year is rough.
It is.
And like I think if there's anything to ever tell anybody, it's like just work through your freshman year the best that you can.
Yeah.
Because I know so many people. Like, I mean, I was on what was it? It was the 4th floor of Twombly. I think that was like where and we had like, I don't know how many rooms, but it was a lot
Yeah.
of rooms. It was like one of the longest hallways. We had a ton of rooms. And by the beginning of sophomore year, I think there were like 6 of us left out of what was probably almost 30 or 40 kids on that floor.
Mm-hmm.
And it was it was a lot. It was a big change. But that's not just an FDU thing.
It's basically, I have seen, and I've worked in higher education for a good 20 years, there is easily a 25% drop off from freshman year to sophomore year in most schools I've seen because of a million different reasons. But yes, it happens.
I'm going to Google it while you talk it out. I think that's such an interesting stat.
But, one of the things that I wanted to ask you about, because, you were struggling and you made this decision to change your major, but, was there any faculty members that were sort of there kind of supporting you and helping you make this transition and then grow into earning the dean's list and stuff like that?
I mean, the first one, because I was thinking about this, and the teacher that taught my intro to psych class that first semester, when it's one of those things that's like a picture, like a video that I can replay in my mind. And like she was going over, and if I'm remembering correctly, her name was Zoe Rosenberg, and she didn't teach. She wasn't like full time, but she was like more than just an adjunct. Like she was like a part-time professor or something like that. I definitely took a few different classes with her, but I remember in that class her going through like dream analysis and me being like, this is cool, and like throwing out ideas and me answering them, and then being like, how are you answering all of these correctly? I'm like, I didn't even know the dream analysis was the thing. But she was definitely one of those people, and I remember going to her like after and being like, I need to take whatever class you're teaching next semester. It's like the only way I'm going to do this. And then it was like through that and getting connected really to the psych department. And Dr. Lana Whitmarsh was one of the people. I don't know if she was in charge of psych but she was one of the people that was there. And I used to connect with her a lot because aside from just being a great professor, like she was somebody that like I could go to and just be like, all right, like this is what's going on. But the psych department was full of a lot of different people, and the more I was in it, the more I just kind of continued to connect with it. I'm actually teaching a Psych 101 class this semester at the high school that I work at, and I'm referring back to like things from FDU, like one of my professors, Dr. Calcanetti. Like I remember him just going on about in the sensation and perception class about like drugs, and be like, there's the fine line between what can cure you and what can kill you. And like we were doing drugs a few weeks ago, doing the topic of drugs.
The topic
in a high school. The topic of drugs.
I'll edit that part.
Yep, the topic.
High school setting. You can edit whatever you want. But I remember those lines, those things that like those bits and pieces, and like those are the people that really like drove me to continue to do that. And then like getting the connection like to the understanding what the 5-year program was, and then like doing that really like a really important road for FDU. I mean, and for somebody that literally ready to go.
Right.
Like I was done, and it came around from a number of the staff. I would say primarily from the psych department, but then it was also finding my people. That was a different part of that.
That's another kind of ongoing theme, is the finding my people thing.
Yeah.
Like it's like, who will be there to catch me when I fall, lift me up, and help me keep moving forward, which is an ongoing theme I keep hearing with people we have on. So Frank, tell me, give me the abridged version of graduating 2002 to now 2025, teaching in high school. Like, what's your path been?
So when I graduated from FDU, I was working as a substance abuse counselor, a couple of different programs, and that went well for a little bit. And then I ended up unemployed for some period of time, and but just kept kind of working. I joked that I was working harder because I was still DJing every week. I was working in a family business, and so I was still working every day. And then I ended up working at an agency out here on Staten Island. It's one of the largest mental health agencies in New York City, called the Jewish Board. And I was there for about 15 years in a few different capacities, working primarily with kids and families. That's been really what most of my work has been. And I've done a lot of like family therapy training. Like that's been most of my career and what I want to do really has been that. I've worked in like kind of foster care type programs and in foster care programs. I was the clinical director of a group home for a period of time. But there was a lot of that. And the interesting thing, I did end up having to go back and get a second master's degree, which was kind of annoying to some degree because I have a master's in social work. The interesting part is that like I got my foot in the door because I had a master's in psychology for a lot of places. But then there was a big transition in like healthcare kind of around the time that like the Affordable Care Act was kind of going in, that they were trying to shift a lot of things and needed like more licensed social workers, and there's licensure issues between New York and New Jersey, which I didn't realize. So I ended up going back to school to get my social work degree, which was like the hardest and easiest thing to do simultaneously because like all of the work is almost exactly the same, but I had to actually do it again.
Right, because you had to do it for New York this time, more or less.
Yeah. But the information is the information. So I was doing a bunch of different things, and then as the pandemic kind of came, well, just before the pandemic, I was definitely burnt out from aspects of like what I was doing. Ended up working in the hospital as a case manager for 2 years, just as the pandemic was starting, which was like not really where you wanted to start working. Like I interviewed in February of 2000, and I started in April of 2000. And you know what happened in between those two?
Yeah,
that period of time.
Oh man,
shut it down. Just shut it down.
What a time.
Yeah, it was wild, but not the easiest of transitions, but it was definitely what I needed to do. And working in a hospital also gave me a totally different understanding of like mental health and like the field of social work, and it, interestingly enough, got me back to that original aspect of like the medical field that I wanted to be connected in. So I never really figured it out that was going to happen. But then I ended up being in these spaces where like I'm the social worker, and I ended up being on like all of the pediatric units and like, supporting families, doing exactly what I wanted to do. And some of the most important work I've ever done, supporting families at really, really, really challenging times in their lives, but also being around like, doctors and nurses and just like these amazing people that are doing this amazing work. So it was really cool. That was a really great transition. And then job as a school counselor kind of got dropped in my lap. So I kind of couldn't pass it up for a number of reasons, like family stuff. It was like, I'm going to a school calendar, and like it's a benefit when, my kids are 10 and 12 now, whatever, it was 5 years ago. It was a perfect, work-life balance for that. So
you have Easter break, spring break, Christmas break, and summer all on the exact same line. My wife's a teacher, and we don't share that at all.
No, it's and it's one of those things where I'm like, I probably should have done this 20 years ago, but at the same time, like, it is what it is.
Listen, hindsight is 2020. I mean, if you had asked me 20 years ago if I would be teaching at FDU now, I'd be like, not a chance. So how could that be? How could that be? No way. Me? Come on.
That guy was running my film class.
Exactly. Come on. But Frank, I got to ask you this question. I've always been wanting to know, like, how did you become interested in DJing and also become like kind of the university's de facto DJ at every event that I
set it up a whole kit?
Norwood was number one. He was like, I think a year or two older than me, and then I was number two. How did I get interested in DJing? It's funny actually. On this past Sunday, I do a radio show on. It's called Maker Park. It's makerparkradio.nyc. It's a Staten Island based like internet radio station.
Cool.
And it's awesome. And I got involved in that a few years ago. And I actually just did a DJ panel on Sunday, which was really cool to like kind of tell sort of origin story of that. But yeah, my first kind of I was a music lover as a kid, so like that was a thing. And I had all the cassettes, I had CDs, I had just I was a collector. But I was like 12 years old, and one of my cousin's friends hired me to DJ like a backyard communion party. They were like, "Yeah, get your cousin to like come over with the karaoke machine and like the 2 tape decks and like do that." Totally dating myself with all of that stuff.
That's fantastic, though. I love that.
Yeah,
It's an impossible task when you think about it now.
Oh my goodness, can't you?
Yeah, no, you had to like pause the one tape and like get it to exactly where it needed to be, and then you could just unpause and stop the other one, and that's like how it lined up.
There was no blending from one song to the next. It was just
absolutely not.
Just hit it. I like it.
But friends of mine, and there was a huge boom in like the mid to late 90s in like music between hip hop and dance music.
Clubbing,
and I had a ton of friends that were DJs and some people that still do it now. It's interesting because there's still like this cohort of like 40 something guys that have been doing this for a long time, and like 3/4 of them are from Staten Island. It's just like this. It's just like this strange aspect of it.
That's
but I started doing that, and then at FDU, I don't know how I specifically got caught into it, but I know the radio station rebooted the year I was there. I think it had been dormant for some period of time. We were broadcasting on AM radio. And so from that, I started like getting more into it. And then between doing the radio stuff there and then the like the club and nightclub sort of stuff at like the pubs and that, that was kind of that trajectory. And then the FDU had some of their own DJ equipment. They had it was like locked up in a closet in the cafeteria. Which is so weird.
It was so weird. It was weird. Yes.
But like that was where the events were. Like our events were in the cafeteria.
We had that stage that they would put up for all the Greek events or whatever and all those things.
And I was like one of 2 people that had access to it. And I had access to the equipment and I had all of my own music. And like that was kind of it. So yeah. And the other thing that I got to do a lot of events because I wasn't in a fraternity. Right. So they would have to hire me.
Right.
I wasn't in the fraternity, so I couldn't like blow Greek Week for anybody.
Yeah.
Like they were like, "Oh, the DJ's throwing it for DPI or something." No, it couldn't happen. It definitely couldn't happen.
The best thing about what you're talking about now is we had just gotten Napster at that moment.
Yes.
And you were totally ready for digital MP3 audio in that moment.
That was a game changer, but you still had to burn it to a CD at the time.
But we could download everything in the
So another fun fact, Ramos, is because Frank had a radio show at the Florham radio station, I wanted a radio station.
It was downstairs in Twombly, right? That radio,
like right in that little like vestibule.
Like that base of it. It was like next to where like the not the dean, but like
Michael Small's his room was right next door. I think
that whole area is all.
It was the dean of students. Yeah, it's Michael Small's, and yeah.
When you had the radio show, we used to hear you on during lunchtime, like during the cafeteria, whatever. And I'm like, I want a radio show. And the spring semester, because I was inspired by you, I got myself onto the radio show for a semester.
That's awesome.
Yes.
There was a point where
I was stalking you for a little while freshman year.
There was a young lady, I don't remember who she was, during that exact same time that she tried to keep a radio show going, and she would get provocative in the conversation. God, I wish I could remember. Anyway, it was like spicy talk radio. It was, it wasn't music, it was spicy talk radio. It was like I don't know, Tuesday at 4 p.m. or something. Like nobody could, we had to be in class during that time, so nobody was listening. But
no, Tuesday. No, let me correct you with that.
Okay.
Tuesday at 4:30 to 6:30 on Tuesday was literally the most coveted slot. I was the program director for whatever period of time
because Tuesday, that was the party night.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. We all got out of class.
4:30 to 6:30 was dinner.
Yeah.
So that radio station, because you couldn't really hear it. Whenever we did actually broadcast, it kind of worked on FM, it kind of worked on AM. We started later on in doing like the internet thing. Like we were on the forefront of actually streaming, but it didn't work great. But hard line running from that radio station into the cafeteria.
Yeah.
So you actually had to go into the cafeteria, into another closet that was near the soda machine, and you had to flip the switch to turn on the speaker, and then I have to run back down to the radio station to then, like, I'd hit play in the radio station, run up to the caf, flip the speaker on, and then run back down to the radio station, probably grabbing like a grilled cheese while I was back on the way back.
Right.
And it was hardwired in. So that was perfect because I did anybody who had that slot, but I always tried to put myself in there. You did all the announcements for all of the like Greek events that were happening that night. If there was a Theta Phi Alpha bagel sale, like you were announcing it. Like there was all of that stuff that was happening. And that was like the most coveted slot.
That was a coveted. I do remember that.
But Mike, as you're talking about that though, like that was also like this heyday of sort of like the Howard Stern, Opie and Anthony, sort of like the radio chick, like all of that stuff that I remember listening to, and it was really like the heyday of that.
Oh, it was the talk radio. Who we would sit around with in the booth while like you were playing music. We just sit there like just chit chatting about God knows what, trying to not curse, trying so hard not to curse.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I still have a ton of those cassette tapes, like recorded. I used to record all the shows. And, and I still have a ridiculous amount of that.
I would love that. I would wish I'd recorded those shows. That'd be so cool.
It's those things though that I also feel like it's that aspect of social media. Like there's a part of it that like I'm glad that those are sitting on analog tape, like in a box. Yeah. Because there's definitely things would
there's VHF of me doing things that, like, I live down the shore, right, in Toms River, on the boardwalk, Seaside Heights, my full-time job all summer long for years and years and years. If I wasn't working on the boardwalk, I was walking and making, mischief. But every now and again, we brought the VHF camera, and God knows where those tapes are, because that was right before Real World. That was right before Jersey Shore. That was right before all. Those guys got paid millions of dollars. They take my tapes out there, and we were doing the same exact shenanigans.
Yeah.
For some reason, it's not on television.
Yeah,
and for good reason.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Listen, let's transition to Wroxton, because you're definitely a guest that went to Wroxton. We want to hear your experience. So, what made you want to go? How did you get there? Tell us about the kind of the early part of it, and then
So I guess once I stuck it out at FDU, I guess by my sophomore year, I realized I wanted to go. And it was a little challenging as a psych major. I know some of those things had changed in later years to diversify some of the curriculum there. But it was hard because you were really taking like a few like core classes and some other things. So it was hard. But I was like, I really want to do this. I want to go. My one other friend that I knew, Dana, was going also, and we're like, all right, we're gonna go. And I remember coming home, and it must have been sometime in like the early of the spring semester. I went in fall of 99. So it must have been sometime in spring of 99, coming home and telling my parents that I was going to England. Like I was like, I'm going to go to this study abroad. And they were like, no, you're not. I'm like, yeah, like, don't worry. Like, it's the same amount of money. Yeah. All we got to do is like cover the flight. I've been working since I'm 13 years old. Like, right. I'm like, I'll work more this summer. I'll do this. I'll do that. I'm like, don't, like, you won't have to worry. Don't, like, nothing about it. And they were like, absolutely not. There's no way you're doing that. And then I was like, I'm going. And my father was like, the only way you're going is if you take a business class. And I looked at the course schedule and I was like, there it is.
There it is.
I was like, I didn't care. And I took international business.
Hey, that's cool.
Like little did I know that I'd like run a business for 25 years with my DJ business, but like I it has nothing to do with international business. But like
at that time, like the curriculum was sort of limited in the classes. Like as a film major, I couldn't go there. I would have fallen behind a semester because of the fact that there wasn't like a film class I could take over there to keep myself catching up. But
weren't they teaching things like Shakespeare in the park? I mean, wasn't that like the kind of curriculum they were?
Yes, but like for me, like I would have needed something more. Like I could have, again, it would have all fallen over either like core requirement classes or like free electives in a way. Mm-hmm. And that's it. But now, while you were there, did you go anywhere else? Did you travel to any other countries while you were there, and all that kind of stuff?
yeah, I mean, you get there and you're just like, I'm in a totally different country, and it was awesome. It was probably I think it was the second time I ever left the country. I was a Japanese exchange student in the 8th grade, so like that was the only other time I remember like leaving the country. I was like in Japan for a week. But
Was that a high school program? Like, I want to get into that. Like, let's unpack that.
I wish it was actually in junior high school, and I really wish it's like still existed.
They were like, we got this guy from Staten Island. Let's send him to Japan.
Strange as hell. It was all Staten Island kids. I don't know. It's a weird place out here.
You should bring that back to your school right now. Totally.
Bad rap, but somehow, we're still kicking it. You get to travel. I mean, forget about traveling other places, right? Like, yes, in that I went to Belgium. And that was actually, the Belgium trip was one of the cooler ones because I got to go to, oh my God, why am I blanking on what it's called? Not the UN, but like the
Embassy?
EU building. Yeah, like whatever the EU building is, I can't remember what it's called. But like, I got to go there, and I got to go there because I took the international business
that's cool
class. So it was like really cool to like be in that place. And it was actually right around in '99. It was right before the Euro was being launched. So there was actually a lot of discussion about like what was going to happen and how that was going to play out, and what, I mean, England still isn't a part of it, but like what was going to happen,
right.
if England didn't get into it. But we went there, and that was just like a trip that you did with the school, right? And like we had gone to a ton of places. We went to Edinburgh in Scotland, and then like your countless amounts of places within the UK. It's like, oh, on Friday you're going to go to Stonehenge, and you're just like, you get up in the morning and you get on a bus and you're at Stonehenge.
Wow.
And like, or you're going to London, or you're going to, Stratford upon Avon to like see Shakespeare shows, or, whatever other kind of plays and all of that kind of stuff. And that was in addition to being able to do travel break. So they give you like 10 days of travel break, which happens usually at like the end of October-ish, maybe the 19th of October, and came back like right before Halloween.
Wow.
And we went, and you just kind of plan on your own. And we went to Paris, Venice, and Rome.
Wow.
And it was like me and like a cohort of like a few people. And you're traveling.
No big deal. Big names, right?
Humble
like,
brag.
No, I mean, totally, right? Like, it's ridiculous. No, I mean, look, and the equivalent of that, like travel-wise, it would be like, okay, in a matter of 10 days, I went to like Boston, DC, and New York City. Like, it's not, distance-wise, it's not that far, but
culturally and just all that other stuff is just so different.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was just, it was awesome. And you're also traveling with like people you've known them for like a month.
Yeah.
Which is just a wild experience.
That's good. That was going to be my question. I know you're going to go ahead, Mike, if you want to. Keep in touch with them. Go ahead.
So the question I had, the thing that I have heard from every single person, even to this day, who goes to Wroxton, they come back with like this kinship with their fellow people that they were there, and they stay friends for long after. And I always find that so interesting about that. Do you still stay in touch with anybody of those people, or like long after?
I see a 5 or 6 of them twice a year.
Wow.
Like we almost every like October, Dr. Baldwin, who's been the dean of Wroxton since like 1983 or something. And he stayed the same age, which I'm really unsure how that's possible. But he comes in like twice a year to like visit the campuses at FDU and for as long as I can really remember now. Like we've gotten together like twice a year, and I've missed it here or there, but there's a core group of us that continue to meet up and do that. I stay in touch with probably, I don't know if it's more people that happened in Wroxton than the rest of my time at FDU.
That was going to be my question.
Yeah, but
it wouldn't surprise me. That's what I've heard.
We hear it all the time. That people if you go to the Wroxton experience, you spend more time with the Wroxton people than you did with your roommates or with people that were in your courses, core classes. Yeah, we hear that all the time.
Navigating on a campus with whatever it was, like 3,000 students.
Right.
You're living with, in my semester, 33 of us.
Wow.
Like, you're literally eating lunch and dinner with each person, and like, for better or for worse, there's times that's not always the
Right.
best of situations. But our grade, really, everybody got along. It was really great. And I mean, early on, we had reunions. There was 20, 25 of us that would show up, like, just around that. It's dwindled down over the years, but that camaraderie that you build from that kind of stuff, like, you really learn people, and you really, like, get through some stuff.
Yeah.
And I've built some really, really awesome friendships. Somebody I didn't know from FDU that went to Wroxton my year, I became really, really close with, and we've stayed in touch over the years. His dad was a professor at FDU, so that's how he, like, went to Wroxton. And I guess 2019 he got engaged, and, like, he asked me to DJ his wedding, and he got married at the mansion on the Florham campus, which was like this wild, like, kind of real, like, full circle moment.
Because wasn't, like, the first wedding you ever did at the mansion as well?
I've done a couple there. No, the first wedding I ever did was for a couple that went to FDU. It wasn't at the mansion. Yeah, but I've done a number of weddings there, different events, and post graduating, outside of just your fraternity, sorority events.
The legend lives on.
Yeah. I mean, it's wild. I show up there, and it does feel. I mean, you go into the mansion, it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not like they're redoing that room, and you're in there, and you're like, these walls have seen some stuff.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful to be able to, like, go back there, and every so often when I get to, like, see the friends, we usually get back together in, like, Morristown, and I mean that has very much changed. But
Morristown's totally different. Yeah,
it's totally different.
Actually,
it is. It's even more nice now than it was 25 years ago, which is crazy. I mean, Jimmy's is gone, but it's a bank now.
Jimmy's is gone. That was the first club I ever played at. But I was running a college night before I was 21, and they didn't know, and that was okay. DJ there being like, "You don't tell anybody that." I was like, I don't
know. It's on the corner.
Yes.
That was on the corner.
It's like a TD Bank
right
now,
as you came
into
downtown, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you come over the overpass, and it was like right as you first. Now it's like a TD Bank, which is funny.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is a TD Bank. Yeah, which actually I will say, like, I'm just surprised they tore it down, because it was some kind of historic building. It had been there for quite some period of time.
It was a staple too.
So,
it was like
a couple of things after, but I'm surprised that they actually were, like, allowed to take it down.
Now, going back to 2019, DJing at a wedding at the mansion, what was it like for you, to kind of come back to campus, as a full-blown adult now, and be like, wow, what is this? What did it feel like for you going back there that time?
It was awesome. I mean, I'm there and I'm working, so, like, it was, I had that kind of mentality, but they, like, painted their name on the rock, like Matt, Hart, Sarah, something like and, like, the date. So, like, that was really cool to, like, know that, like, that's still there. I mean, not that rock couldn't go anywhere. Like, who's moving that thing? But that aspect of it was, like, that's really cool. And the weirdest thing, and this is, like, an inside kind of DJ sort of thing, is that towards the end of my friend was Matt. The woman Sarah that he married is British, and just to, like, make this a more interesting, like, kind of Wroxton connection. But it was just years later they had met. Somebody requested a song that it was a remix of Run DMC's "It's Like That," and that song was huge in 1997, 1998. Like, it was one of the things. I mean, I'm sure I have it on my CD single somewhere, but I've played that thousands of times, and I very specifically remember playing that on, like, almost every single radio show. Every time I played the pub, like, it was a staple.
Yeah.
And I have not played that song probably close to 20 years.
Wow.
And they request it, and, like, in the middle of the party, and I was like, it was a moment for me, and I was like that was a weird sort of moment for that. Like, there was something else going on that was just not, like, that didn't just happen,
right,
like, by accident.
That's the way it is.
Yes, exactly.
The universe knew you were there. We're like, he's got to play this song again.
I mean, and the other full circle part of that is that I think the only concert that I got to see, the only real concert that FDU had while I was there was Run DMC.
Yeah.
Somewhere buried upstairs somewhere is an old 80s Adidas jacket signed by Jam Master Jim on the inside.
That is
Wow.
sick. You know, actually,
Weird prices.
that's funny you say that, because I went my freshman year. I went to the Metro campus, and we had the Fugees there, and so we had, you know, this is 2 years. This is spring of '95, I think it was spring of '95. Like, the Fugees were there. You know, Lauryn Hill was killing it. You know, it was amazing.
The world back then at that time.
Yeah, it was great. It was great. No.
I don't remember anything else.
We got to bring concerts back to that campus. We got to figure out a way to bring that back.
They got Wham Fest.
The only other real thing I really remember was I mean, just go back to like that whole like Opie and Anthony thing, like the comedian Stephen Lynch, who was like a kind of a comedian, but he like wrote like parody songs, kind of stuff. The people that were in charge of whatever student life got him to come out and play in the pub, which was like wild, because like I was going to the city and seeing him in like these much bigger venues, and like there he was, you know, with like the smell of cheeseburgers from you know behind us, like that was awesome.
I have a story. You're totally triggered. So I just realized as the camera came up, I have my FDU Veterans sweatshirt on, November being, you know, Veterans Month, you know, so, you know, I'm wearing my FDU. Anyway, but the story goes, again, on the Metro campus, we're having comedy night, and we had some openers who were students that were trying to be comedians. And then we had this guy, Mac something. I don't know. They call me the Mac. And I was like, okay, now I got to come up and introduce this guy, Mac, the comedian. What's his name?
Bernie Mac?
Bernie Mac. So Bernie Mac is the headliner. I had no idea who he was at the time. He could have been anybody, right? Anybody. I don't know when Bernie Mac's career started, right? So I get up there and I'm like gonna, you know, I'm supposed to like
get him on your podcast.
I'm supposed to, you know, get him up, you know, I all I remember saying, "Oh, we got this guy coming out. You're gonna love him. He calls and says the Mac." I don't know anything about that, but here he is, and I like totally took the crowd right out of it by saying it that way. Right out of it. And he just bombed horribly because I took the crowd out of it.
Oh, no.
Goes on to be Bernie Mac, the guy.
So wow, funny. That's so funny.
Yep. That's why you totally remind me after the Stephen Lynch conversation. I forgot doing that.
That's funny.
Oh, yeah. A lot of comedy things. And like, you know, people talk a lot about, you know, you learn a lot from bombing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. 100%. I'm still surprised this podcast is going. How about that?
We're having fun.
We are having fun.
I don't have anything else had scheduled for a Tuesday night.
Yeah, right. You know. My wife's setting our dining room table for Thanksgiving right now, so I'm up here. So there you go.
You can't imagine what my dining room table looks like. Oh.
So Frank, aside from, you know, going to Wroxton, doing the DJing of events, were you involved in any clubs or organizations while you were there as well?
You know, FDU had a really big kind of like Greek life thing, and it just wasn't me, and it was hard actually for a little bit of time for me to figure that out. The radio station was definitely my thing, and that's really where I found myself and the people. We were a band of misfits. We were the people that were listening to music that didn't, you know, connect to a lot of the sorority fraternity stuff. You know, nothing against them. Some of my best friends are, you know, are in some of those fraternities and sororities, but it just wasn't for me. So the radio station was big. I remember one of the other podcasts, a woman was talking about like getting involved in the newspaper, and I was like, right, we had a newspaper. I remember writing for the newspaper and being involved in that. We had something. It was like it was called the Scribblers Club. It was like a
literary magazine.
Like, yeah, right, yeah. Exactly. I have that somewhere, I think. You know, so I'm a published author, apparently. Add that on the bottom of my resume. But you know, I was involved in a lot of stuff like that, and you know, the psychology stuff. I mean, it was a lot. Also, like I didn't have a ton of other time because between being involved in the radio station, and I don't know for how long, but being the like program director of that, and then taking what was mostly like 18 credits a semester, on grad level stuff. Like I didn't have a ton of other time, but also I was DJing, and like that was the other part of that was sort of the social connection. And actually, funny enough, now that I'm remembering this, is that I started DJing in like nightclubs at FDU. Jimmy's was the first one I ever did, and then a bunch of other clubs that were in town. But my first city club was at a place called Exit. And
I remember Exit, yeah.
Yeah. So I got that gig because one time I walked into, I don't know if it's still there, but there was a Nathan's that was in what they called the NAB. I really hope they've renamed it from the new academic building 30 years later.
So now it's called the Zen Building, and there is it's not Nathan's anymore. It's like it's changed over a few times, but the students really love it now. Whatever it's called now, they really like it.
I'm going to bring us back just a hair to education, because you had gone back to get your second master's, right? And, obviously you loved your time at FDU, but coming into the world of AI, coming into the future, and some people are finding less and less value in maybe the cost of education or whatever. What do you say to that? What is your perspective on education in 2025?
It's a good question. I think we have the ability to do so much, and like AI is not going anywhere. But at the same time, I think we really have to like think about how we're going to utilize it and what we're going to utilize it for. It really feels like this is the 1994, like kind of repeating itself, like the internet explosion.
Exactly.
When everybody was like, I don't need a book anymore. I remember at FDU, like, it would be like, you have to find a resource. I worked in the library. I had work study. I worked in the library. That's what we had to do. We had to like find that sort of stuff. You had to like actually use a book to reference. You couldn't just use only internet references.
Yeah.
And now it's like, if kids need to read something, it's just totally different.
So,
I think
it's funny you say that.
Yeah.
In one of my classes, I teach a content creation class about podcasting, and I had them go out and do a scavenger hunt around campus, and I said, go find an encyclopedia in the library. They couldn't find one.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't there?
No, they're not there. Just not there. They're not there.
They're not there. That's different than, I don't know what an encyclopedia is. I got to Google what is an encyclopedia.
Yeah. They weren't there. I was like, oh, weird.
But the topic of education.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
No. But I think it's interesting. I think that right now we're in a place where AI it's infiltrating a lot of things, and I think we'll see where this kind of goes and how it kind of helps us, and then ideally plateaus out of what's like not going to be helpful, right? Because like, how many more AI like commercials are we really even going to be able to tolerate? And I think there will be a tipping point of that, of like, I want to see actual content. I want to actually talk to people. I want to actually connect with certain things. But on the other side, the ability to have this information as fast as you can get it without really needing to know it, is an asset to some degree. Unless, of course, all the electricity shuts down, but that's a whole dystopian world. But
then you need one of these.
Yeah.
Nice walkie-talkie.
Right, yeah.
A little Pliskin Escape from New York.
Because, and I think, somebody said to me, like, well, you don't have to worry, like, as a counselor, as a social worker, like, your job is safe. And I was like, I had a friend that was literally using AI to, like, figure out how to, like, talk about hard topics. And I'm like, I'm not okay with this. And, like, it's crazy for me to say that. And then a year or so ago, I had an intern that, like, I needed to write process recordings on her. I had to write a report on her process recordings, and give her feedback, and she was like, oh, well, you just use ChatGPT. I was like, no. And I stopped myself. I was like, tell me what it would say. it printed out, whatever, it came up on the screen, and I was like, that's pretty good. I was like, I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, it's not entirely wrong,
No.
but that is part of that challenge, that it is this thing. And like, the kids, though, as I'm teaching this class now, I intentionally was like, I want you to make the mistake. I think that's the thing that is challenging, is that we're not able to like make these kind of mistakes in this way, because like, one, social media doesn't allow us to make mistakes, right? Like, I mean, you were referencing things before that happened in the 90s where maybe we can pull out a picture, right? But there's not the rest of the context of all, or there's not audio and video and that be posted online, and like you can never run for office, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you have to be thinking about that, like graduating like the 5th grade, like it's wild.
Yeah.
But I want them to screw up. I'm like, all right, I want you to proofread. Like, I need this to be like grammatically correct, but I don't want it to not be your thought.
Right.
And that's the thing that does scare me.
The thinking
because
critical
there
part.
is so much of that you don't even have to develop a thought to get this information.
I agree with you. The critical thinking of AI, when it gives you an answer, is that answer right? And a lot of times it's really good, right? Like you said. But at the same time, if you're not thinking critically about what you're asking, what it's giving you, how to challenge it, how to be challenged by it. But then there's also the university value in the social aspect of being able to communicate what AI just taught you, what AI just is showing you, and those things. And I mean, we just read an article. My wife and I were, jaws dropped when, you hire somebody and they can't critically do the job because they've been cheating their entire life with AI, right?
Mm-hmm.
And just letting AI do its thing. And at some point, like professors, teachers, or others can't get a perspective of the student because they're just delivering AI's voice, not their own.
Yeah.
I still find huge value in the social aspect, the challenge and the critical thinking that you get from a classroom, and the brainstorming and the back and forth of that one-on-one, or that several to one conversations.
My students all tell me all the time that they enjoy that I encourage them to have conversation. And not just listen to me talk for 3 hours. And I think that's especially this generation, like the right out of COVID people that are like, we're in high school at the end during COVID, and they like were on a laptop for 2 years. They're sort of like relearning how to communicate, where all we could do was, call somebody on the phone or go to their room and knock on the door and say, hey, what are you doing? Go to the calf, let's go.
Right. Yeah. And I think that is the thing. And I remember talking to Dr. Baldwin in one of the kind of Wroxton like dinners that we had. And this was, I don't know, however many years after, but it was definitely like post smartphone, like probably 10 years ago, let's just say 10 years ago. And that, you could now have a smartphone, or just any phone, right? Almost everything is a smartphone, but like, you have a phone here that's working in the UK. You don't need to change anything.
Yep.
It doesn't matter. We're not locked into minutes or anything like that, really, any data or anything like that, the way we were. And the kids are like texting each other, and they're sitting next to each other on the bus, right? And like, that's that aspect of it. That's like, that's hard. That's hard to do that. At the same time, it's great. Right. And as you're talking about that stuff out of COVID, and like watching my kids kind of work through that, it's been a push pull, because on one side of all of that, and it's just technology, is that like during COVID, they were able to do so much that they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Right. And stay connected to people that they wouldn't have necessarily been able to do. Right. On the other side is that it is very much limited a lot of our social interaction, and that time of only doing things virtually has diminished learning in general. So, that is part of that challenge, is that like, a lot of, I think there's, this thought of like, it doesn't matter. AI is going to take over. I could just use AI for anything. I'm not going to need to do whatever. And that may or may not be correct, but at some point people are going to want to continue. I mean, we're social creatures, right? We're going to need to have that continuation of one way or another. And, it's going to be, it's going to be an interesting, transition. But if I'm to go back to that, it's like, that is the, like, get out of your house, get out of your basement, go do a study abroad program. Like, don't just do what that, the online class, right? I mean, for me, for other people, that's also a benefit, right? I can double talk myself on this, being a mental health professional, there are kids that can't do that, right?
Mhm.
That have never been, that have that struggle, right? And learning that way is everything, and that's what they need, and that's okay. But we need that balance of those two things.
I'm on the fence about that, where like there are those that could learn better virtually. I still like I have a handful of students that have various, levels of challenges in their classes, right? And they always need to come up to me after and say, "Hey, do you have 5 minutes to chat?" And I always say, "Absolutely, I'm here. Let's do it right now." Like when you're in a virtual class, when that thing ends, okay, maybe you'll find them in office hours. It's not they don't have that one-on-one with the professor. And I remember I had a student at a different college during COVID who I had in a virtual class. The person never turned their camera on, never spoke during class. And then, like a year or two later, when we were back in person, said, "Hey, professor, can you write me a recommendation letter?" And I'm like, "I don't know who you are." There's that part where like now I see my students and I know who they are, and I can speak to their skills and so on and so forth, which I find, it's you can go both ways with it, but I think there's pros and cons to both in certain aspects. You know what I mean?
No, and I totally agree with you. And I think, you see that, you can be really book smart and have all that information and just obtain it. And whether it's AI or not, that's okay. But if you can't translate that on the other side, especially in social type of positions, right? In schools, in hospitals, right? Like in other aspects of that, where you have to communicate with people,
Right.
right? You're not going to be able to just hide behind a screen, or get all the degrees that you want and then be able to implement a certain craft, right? You're not going to be able to be a teacher. But the challenge is that, is AI just a teacher, right? And that's I think that part of, like, all right, but then, again, what's the tipping point of what we can ever do with whatever the technology is,
Yeah.
right? And when are people going to be like, that's cool that you can do that, and I don't really care? Because you watch this, like, reverse technology happen all the time, right? I mean, Mike, you and I were joking about aspect of vinyl records,
Yeah.
right? And, like, you talk to somebody that vinyl records over the last 15 years, I don't know the stats the last few, but I'm pretty sure this is close to accurate, has doubled, like, every year for
Oh, easily.
like every
Yeah.
single year it has doubled in sales. It's pretty much the only thing as far as physical media that is selling.
Yeah.
And people like it. People like having something tangible.
Yeah.
Because sure, CDs were great and it was still tangible. And then you had your iPod, and, like, you still had to work through the music. And now you're at streaming where you just have everything all the time. And
Yeah.
now people, I've heard a term a couple of months ago called single tasking, which is, like, makes absolutely no sense, because growing up, it was like putting that you could multitask on a resume
was a big deal.
was
Was a big deal.
was a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, like, now being able to single task, because people are multitasking too much.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not completing anything, right? Oh, I'm multitasking. I'm listening to you, and I'm like doing 9 different things at the same time, but none of those things get done.
Yeah.
Right? I can't talk to somebody and parent my kids and cook dinner and, like, grade papers and respond to my friends' texts while, like, listening to music. I can't do all that, right? But there was a strength in that, and I think that becomes that thing where we really do need to pare down what we're able to even process.
Yeah.
Or I'm old.
No,
Or
you're not. You're on the money.
I think you're right on the
No,
money,
you're
actually.
you're on the money, 100%. Maybe we're all old because we're agreeing. You're shaking our heads like that's 100% true. I mean, that reference you just made about resumes and multitasking, I'm convinced that my entire resume still to this day is like screaming, I'm so good at multitasking. And now I'm like, I'm so good at single tasking too, but I never, ever show it.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's truly a gift.
Yeah.
Wow. Like this is a wow moment for me. Like you've really hit that one hard.
Look at what we're doing here at Coming Home podcast. We're really giving people wow moments and eye-opening.
The way you've delivered your message is right on the money. Just the memory, the is the important part, and those relationships, the networking of those relationships is key, because really, when it comes down to it, especially from alumni perspective, I mean, I'm as I'm board of governors. I say this every podcast. I don't know if I'm bragging about it or just reminding people. But being on the board of governors and being part of those networks is truly an honor to be around the people that are alumni of FDU, because they are just rock stars, every last one of them. I'm in awe of most of the people who have graduated from our university. Simple as that. They are doing great things, all of them.
One of the things that I've been thinking about is like what our kids are going to say. Well, they don't know, right? Like, they don't know what it was like. We're looking at our kids going like, you have it so easy. Like, do you know that I had to like walk down the block and ring a doorbell in order to find out if somebody could hang out, right? Like, or whatever that might have been, right? Like I had one phone in my house, right? And we all shared it. And if your mother picked it up on the other side, she was, yeah, exactly. She was listening to the whole conversation, like, do you know what it was like to text in 2003?
3 2
exactly.
We had a Motorola beeper.
Right, all of those things, right?
But here's
what 15 years from now, when our kids of their own, and they're looking at that and they're going, you don't understand how easy you got it. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that holds on for me, because I really wonder what that's going to be. Yeah. Right? It's going to be like, do you realize that I didn't just have to tap my head 3 times to have a group chat in my glasses with all of my friends? Or like, I had to like tell somebody that I was going somewhere. They couldn't just track me in my, what that's going to look like.
This is Jetson stuff.
But I think there's a lot of parallels and differences to our generations. But I also think that like we know a life pre-computers, pre-smartphones, pre-internet, and we were forced to embrace it. Where I think I see a lot of people today, like young people, that they don't understand technology, even they use it all the time. They know how to use apps, but they don't know how to use technology.
And Frank spoke to that earlier, actually, how in '94, when the internet came online, it was a big old boom. Everybody was using it, but there were the users and there were the adopters, right? And the adopters, like myself, built websites and built business online, right? So now the same thing, jump forward, you got AI who is doing boom, everybody's using it, everybody's touching it. But you know what? All they're really doing is using it for an advanced Google search and not necessarily agentifying their lives, right? Really building things that make their life better, enhance their life, make tasks that seem monotonous become instantly, just let those go and let the AI work for them. And that's where the values, I think, is going to come into play, when people can adopt it to do that, or pay me to build you an app so I can just
And the other side to like connect some of this is like the way AI is being adopted within music is really shifting a lot of stuff. And again, like kind of for better or for worse, right? I mean, I think AI and streaming and all of that stuff, like it's here. And I even like AI, I think is a good summarization, but like, it's not like AI is new, right? Everybody's like, oh, AI, it's artificial intelligence has been around for a lot longer, and us being able to do certain things, right? Like AI is built into one of my DJ programs, right? And at any point in a set, I can sit there and by literally the push of a button, drop the drums out of a track.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the middle, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if that track was made last week or in the 1940s.
Right.
Yeah.
That algorithm, the AI algorithm, knows how to do that. So like, I can drop out the drums, I can drop out the bass, I can leave just the vocal, I can do all that kind of stuff. Which, like, for me, that's a great tool. Like,
Yeah.
I love that, right? So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, it's like, all right, cool. Like, here's the, acapella of something that I can put over this other beat, or remix something just on the fly, and that's, that is the benefit to that. On the other side is that, it's created saturation, an oversaturation, right?
Mhm.
It's much harder to parse out what is really good and what holds. And I think that's the thing, that becomes hard just in media in general. I don't think it's just music, but it's like we have access to so much, and there's only so many things that float to the top. But in 1975, I mean, how many songs were out as opposed to now, right? It's a bazillion more.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and movies are not dissimilar.
Right.
Like, you used to see every single movie, every good movie. It's like, you've never seen that movie. It's like people look at you like you have six heads. Like, I haven't really seen a lot of movies more recently,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Because we're just able to consume things in a much different way.
I also think, well, that's also because, the market for that is so saturated. You're not just going to the movie theater. You have to go to this app or this streaming service, or and like you can't subscribe to all those things and get all the content you want, which is another big problem.
Yeah, but at the same time, the thing about that then also becomes like this connection to something physical, right? Like sure, not as many people are going to movies, but like, have you seen like the popcorn buckets recently?
Mm-hmm.
Like what popcorn buckets look like? Like, they're amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's these, like, they're pieces of art. They're collectible, and that's cool in that way.
Yeah.
It gets people to go and do whatever it is that they want to do, and I think it makes people try harder, like the artists and stuff like that, to try a bit harder to like get things out there to like really connect with people and connect with things.
Yeah.
So it is a double-edged sword for a lot of that.
Good point. Oof.
I know. We've unpacked it all. We've unpacked it all.
We really did. We really did. So to bring this train, somehow back into the station here, Frank, you talked about so many interesting things and memories and experiences you had at your time at Fairleigh Dickinson, and since then, times going back and so on and so forth. But if you had to like sum it up and give some sort of like final thoughts and memories, how would you share that?
I think it was a time of real understanding and learning. And I look back now and see how that shifted. And just as we were talking about something, it just popped in my head. Like, I had this one DJ event at FDU, and I didn't know anything about it. They were like, one of the fraternities is doing a step show, and I had no idea what that even meant.
I remember this.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand. I was like, okay, cool. And I'm the DJ.
Mm-hmm.
I have the access to the equipment. So I'm showing up, and it is the fraternity. I don't remember what the fraternities are, but it's a traditional Black fraternity. It was a mix of both campuses.
Omega Phi Theta or something like that, or one of those two. Yeah.
I'll trust you.
Yeah.
It was an eye-opening event, right? And it was one of those things where I'm like, this is a learning experience that I've never forgotten. That day, like, being there for that event has never left my mind. Like, that is something that has absolutely changed my worldview and my personal view and my understanding of so many things. And maybe it's something so, like, it sounds silly, like, oh, it's a step show. No. Like, once you understand what step means for Black people and people of color, it is not just a performance at an FDU cafeteria where we're having a food fight the night before, right? Like, it's not that. When I was in Wroxton, I was taking one of a sociology class, and when they were talking about healthcare, I very quickly understood that they have healthcare for everybody. And I'm like, excuse me, what do you mean?
Right.
Like, we have universal healthcare. And this is well before Care Act. This is well before that. Like, everybody has healthcare? And they're like, yeah. I'm like everybody? Like everybody who's working has healthcare. They're like, no, like if you don't have a job, you also have healthcare. Like, how do you? They're like, no. I was like, I'm really not understanding how this works, right? And understood that like taxes pay for it, and then like we can go into all of that, but like that has also shaped my life here, right? So like there were things like that, and as odd as those things are, like I think understanding, and I've done a ton of work around understanding and undoing racism in my social work kind of world. I was actually leading like undoing racism groups for one of the agencies, like for people on Staten Island, and healthcare has been a really important part of social work and just understanding like where people are. So those two things specifically really hit home for me. And so I don't know if this is like wrapping it up, but like as I bring up those two things, like those two events really shaped my social work understanding. And I still stand on those things now, right? Like I didn't understand. I know this sounds crazy, but like I didn't understand racism in the way that I understand it now.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I didn't understand what it meant, and from an event like that of understanding like this is very different. I need to understand this more, and being curious about it, and then having the opportunity to be able to do that, because that wasn't happening in my high school. That wasn't happening. I mean, that was actually happening in high schools that were all of 15 minutes away from me, but it was a different world.
Yeah.
To go back to like the technology aspect, like we didn't have access to like what that meant,
Yeah.
right? And there's a great thing about that for the kids now that just have access to everything all the time, but we don't have that. We didn't have it then. Understanding that like people could just have healthcare, like to me, that still like just rings super, super important. As somebody that went without healthcare, I remember having to like get healthcare while at FDU. Like that was a thing because
Mhm.
like you couldn't. It's not this. We're not post Affordable Care Act, right?
Yeah.
Where like at FDU you had to sign up for healthcare through FDU
Yeah,
to
I
then
remember.
cover that period of time.
Yeah.
And like that was wild. I didn't understand it. And like, leaving college and then be like, guess I don't have healthcare anymore.
Right.
Like and so those things really have stuck with me. And just, as much as like it's a social work thing, that step event doesn't happen without DJing. Like there's so many weird things that like, connect all of that. But I think those things really have shaped me. And that time at FDU just, they maybe they would have happened, but definitely not in the way that they did.
Yeah. And what I heard you say is you grew up and FDU shaped it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great way to wrap, man.
Really,
I
I mean,
appreciate you giving us that exact perspective, because those are the gems that we look for when we thought about putting together this podcast. That was really, really beautiful. Thank you for that.
Fantastic. It was very, very insightful. And I was, I mean, we were both hanging on your words, like, so I'm sure everybody listening to this, whatever parts don't get cut out, they'll be listening to it.
Part of this. I don't care. I don't care what everybody else listens to.
I'll get it for you. No problem. Well, Frank, listen, again, this was incredible. I'm so glad we got to chat for almost 2 hours. It's like crazy. And just having this awesome conversation going down memory lane and just talking about such unique perspectives of things. So again, thank you for being a part of this and sharing your memories with us. It meant a lot to us both.
Man, I really appreciate this. This was awesome.
Cool. Well, listen, everybody. Mike, you got any final thoughts?
No, I don't have any final thoughts. That was gem, and I appreciate it. Thanks, Frank. Appreciate it. Really. That was awesome.
Great.
Mike, take us away.
Cool. Remember, folks, no matter where you are, you can always come home again. See you next time, everybody. Bye for now.